Hello, folks. This is Bob Leahy from Positive Light, and we're here in Toronto today at the Gay Men's Sexual Health Summit, and I'm talking to Jaime Woo. Hi, Jaime.
Hi, how are you doing, Bob?
Jaime has just finished presenting, talking about Grindr. Now, we'll explain what Grindr is for those people who don't know it. There must be some people who don't know about it. But Jaime has just written a book, actually, and it's called Meet Grindr. Is that correct?
That's right.
Just hot off the press?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Tell me, Jaime, why the book?
So I wanted to write the book because I'm a journalist in Toronto, and I'm endlessly fascinated with Grindr because a lot of my friends have Grindr and we're all using it. But after 4 years, no one's written anything about it yet. Yeah. And I was so surprised. How come there hasn't been anything to kind of look at how it's changed? All of these guys are connecting with one another. So I thought I would do that.
And you're the first book out on Grindr, yes, which is always good.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Okay, maybe we should backtrack a bit, Jaime, because there must be some people out there who don't know Grindr. So you give us Grindr 101. What is it?
All right. So Grindr is an app that you can use for your tablet or smartphone that takes the GPS capabilities that you have on your phone and allows you to find nearby men who are also using the app for whatever reason that you'd like to meet with them.
So it's based on GPS?
Based on GPS, and they're lined up based on proximity.
So you'd look at a screen and you'd see 50 men?
That's right. And the one that's closest to you is up top, and the one that's farthest away is at the bottom.
And so you can go through the faces and block the ones you don't like? Is that how it works?
Well, you can do different things. You can chat with men. You can favorite them if you really enjoy what you're seeing. And yes, you can block them. Sometimes men can be a little bit aggressive on the app, so you need to block them. Or, because Grindr only gives you a limited number of men, you might block them because they weren't your type and you're trying to see more men.
And Jaime, you have an opportunity to explain who you are, but in 120 characters. That's right, isn't it?
That's right.
How does that, is that limiting at all? What can you say about yourself in 120 characters?
I don't know, because that's 20 characters less than a Twitter message.
That's right.
It's 40 characters less than a text message. And I already, get the most confusing text messages ever from people. So I think that it doesn't tell very much about people at all. And so that's why sometimes we see these messages that feel so rude or so rough. It's because they're trying to use that limited space to share what they want or what they don't want.
And there's a set of abbreviations that people use that you get to know.
Absolutely. But you can't be too sexual on Grindr. They will stop you if you are trying to be too explicit.
So the photos on Grindr are face photos and upper body and not below that. Is that correct?
Right. As long as you don't include the groin, you're okay.
You go to another site for that.
Yes. Or in your chat, you can send any kind of photo that you like. So after you start talking, you can do whatever you like. But in terms of what everyone will see on their grid, it's always faces.
And the chat is not limited to 120 characters. You have free will?
No. That's where you're able to really communicate with people.
And that's where you connect.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, you've sort of touched on it. Well, why are people so hung up? Why do people really like Grindr?
Why do people really like Grindr? I always say that Grindr gives people superhuman powers. So first of all, it gives you X-ray vision because you can see all of the men around you. You can see through the walls. You can see through the trees. You can see through their clothes sometimes. So that's a fantastic thing. Where even if I'm at a club, I can see all the men who are nearby me through the physical space. The other thing is that you can also do it with some privacy. It gives you kind of like the ability to mind read because you get to talk to someone and no one else knows that you're talking to that person. The fact that you can carry it with you because it's on a mobile device, it was so new for people 4 years ago, and I think it's just the way that we expect now. Right.
So it's 4 years old, and it's now huge. You have how many users on Grindr?
So there are 5 million users around the world. It's in over 190 countries, and men use it for 90 minutes a day on average.
Yeah. Just backtrack a little bit. 90 minutes, that's a lot. But what are they doing? Are they cruising at that time, or are they spending time, or what are they doing for 90 minutes?
For 90 minutes.
That's a long time.
90 minutes is a long time.
When they could be out on the streets.
That's right. I think the nice thing about a mobile app is that you can do other things while you're on Grindr. So they may not be just looking at it, but it means that they can be at the bus stop and they can kill some time. Definitely there's cruising going on. That's the number one reason I think that men are on there, to find a sex partner.
Has Grindr replaced bar culture or replaced online sites, or do people use a variety of techniques to find men?
That's a great question. It's a big question because everyone seems to assume that new technology will replace old institutions. I think what we've seen is that it does replace some of the things that people do in bars, but it could also augment it. So we really need to see bar culture and spaces for gay men start evolving to include this technology. So a lot of people say, for example, on Fire Island, they'll see men looking at their screens in the trees instead of looking at each other. But you always have to ask, why is that? Well, it's because I can talk to 10 guys on Grindr, and they might not respond, but I won't feel very hurt, versus having to go up to 10 guys in person and saying hello. It's very scary. There's a lot of risk involved. That's why people choose Grindr.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: how do people treat each other on Grindr? Are people kind? And what about the role of minorities and people who of color or people who are older? How do they get on Grindr?
So Grindr, over the last 4 years, has evolved to really be a space for people who fit the cultural standard of beauty. So if you open up Grindr, you're going to see mainly young, fit, white men. And part of it was just that you get so little information about people on Grindr that people are very quick to dismiss based on looks alone. I don't get to know if we have mutual interests.
It's nothing about personality.
Nothing about personality, people don't really know who you are just because they've seen your Grindr profile. And it turns out that people tend to then stick to things that they're familiar with, to the images that they see.
So would that favor white, attractive gay males?
Yeah, absolutely. They're the ones who I think will get the most messages. They're the ones who can probably connect the best. But people are starting to find their own spaces, create their own apps for themselves where they can find similar people or people who don't only look for.
So you could go to a different site if you were a bear or an older man.
That's right.
Sites we're starting to get specialized.
Oh, yeah. I'm laughing because I have 12 different hookup apps on my phone for doing research.
So you have more than one iron in the fire, is what
That's exactly it.
Okay. Let me talk about the research aspect a little bit. First of all, how did you do your research for the book? Obviously, you were a Grindr user.
Yes.
But were there sources that you could go to that you could find more about Grindr, or did you talk to other people?
Well, that was it. My first instinct was to go to the academic journals and look up Grindr and see.
And is there much research out there on mobile apps?
Unfortunately, there isn't. It's just starting. A lot of it tends to deal with safer sex, which is understandable because that's where the grant money probably comes from. But no one was speaking about it from this design perspective. And so I had to start looking beyond just Grindr. So I researched online dating. I researched cruising through websites. I started researching how people behave in general and seeing what you might be able to project onto Grindr using that. Yeah.
So I'm interested in particular in what research is out there, what we found out about Grindr users so far. And one piece I've read, and I think it was from the UK, but you probably know more. Grindr users tend to have more unsafe sex. Was that from the UK or? Remember?
I don't think it. Okay. I don't quite remember.
But anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was American, but it could be from the UK.
Right. What do you think of that, and why?
Yeah, so the interesting thing to me was that the next question we have to ask is it because the app somehow encourages people to engage in less safe sex? Or is it that men who prefer less safe sex use this app? Because those two are very different questions. And that wasn't actually, that wasn't answered in the paper. And when the media was reporting on it, they didn't really think of that distinction. So to me, that I don't think we can really know much more besides the fact that there are men doing this on Grindr. But we need more answers. We need more clarity.
Do we know if men on Grindr have a lot of sex, have more sex than online people, or people go by? It sounds a very efficient means of meeting people.
Yeah, so I looked at data from research on safer sex. That's the only part we can get kind of research on. I asked Grindr, I was like, where's your data on this? And I wasn't able to get anything from them. So it was really tricky. I had to find other ways. But we do know that there was a survey of men 18 to 24. Now, granted, that's a very specific age range. It doesn't apply to everyone. But they were finding many partners on Grindr, that about 80% of them had found someone to have sex with on Grindr before.
Okay. Jamie, tell me a little bit about the drawbacks of Grindr. What's bad about Grindr? And what would a new user need to watch and be careful about?
So I think the main thing I always say about Grindr is it's a very visual app. I think instinctively we know this. You only get one picture. The picture is very big. It takes up all of the profile. But what that means is that you're only going to be judged on that. It's very difficult to judge someone based on their personality or any other factors aside from their looks. So you need to know that, because when you're on there, if you don't match very specifically what other people are looking for looks-wise, then there's not going to be a connection. It's really narrowed our idea of sexy on this app.
So it could be depressing for some people to use, or a downer.
It could be depressing, frustrating,
but
upsetting.
so are other forms of cruising too, right?
Yes, I think that, one thing that I always caution is that you are not your Grindr profile. So there are lots of different ways to meet men. And if you don't want to be judged on just your looks, Grindr is not the place for you.
But if you're a very hot young gay guy with muscles and six-pack, it could be the best thing since sliced bread.
I think for those guys, they can pretty much go anywhere. But I think there's sliced bread everywhere. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about how some HIV agencies, AIDS service organizations might be using it. Now, traditionally, we have a history of using online sites, based on a computer at home or in the office. A mobile app sort of puts a slightly different spin on it. Are ASOs starting to use mobile apps for outreach?
I think they are, because they understand how many men are on there. And that study that you cited previously does show that outreach is important. The trouble is that because it's based on location, you only have a certain number of men, and they have to be the ones who are around you.
Or be on the move.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so it means that your audience is always shifting, and that you're only capturing a small pocket of those people. It's like a stream moving.
And it might be the same group every day?
That's exactly it. It could very well be those people. So what are the strategies the agencies can use to make sure they're reaching as many people for all the effort that they're putting in?
So the strategies, we have developed strategies for online reach. Maybe there's a different set of strategies for using mobile apps.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's what I hope the book does, is show how the design, the structure of the app does change how we use it, and we have to think about that.
So those conversations are really just starting. We're still getting our mind around
yeah,
that.
Absolutely.
Jamie, this is very interesting. I think Grindr mobile apps and how we're using them is just fascinating. Thank you for talking to us. Tell us about your book. How can people get hold of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. You can pick up the book at Amazon or at Kobo. It's available in a physical and a digital edition, and it's out now.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you so much. It was a great chat.
This is Bob Leahy with Jaime Woo, reporting from the Gay Men's Health Summit. Thank you, Jamie, for talking to us.
Thank you so much.